It can be like a nightmare to play against guys like Fab Caruana. You just wish you wake up and this isn't happening, while you can almost feel yourself getting dissected by his surgical precision with every move. Uh, it's actually hard to understand how good the best really are. That you even after the game you sit there and say, okay, but I didn't make any mistakes. I played reasonably well, and and I was dead lost at move 20. How did that happen? And well, they just understand everything a little bit better, and there are no rooms for even the slightest error against the best players. In this game from the ongoing championship of the US, always played in St. Louis these days, the new capital of chess, we will see the mighty Caruana dissect John Burke, a talented upcoming player who's got, well, he does have 250 rating less, and we can we can see that in the game. But he must still be thinking, wow, how did I lose this game? What happened? So Caruana is white, and he starts with e4, which is by far his main weapon. Caruana is one of the best players at putting pressure with every move. I think maybe he is the best player in the world. Carlsen is a little more zen type. Caruana is just very, very Fischer-like, razor sharp, to the point with every move. The Ray Lopez or Spanish opening, knight f6, and d3. And that's a little bit surprising, since Caruana obviously knows his openings very well. And to be honest, d3 is considered to be slightly less accurate than 6d3, because then the black has already put his bishop on e7. So I'm just going to show after, in this case, here and d3. The thing is, maybe Caruana was a little bit afraid of the open Spanish, knight takes e4. But it could also be that he just thinks d3 is a good move, and it does get out of the theory, but it does allow black to play the Müller setup in maybe one of the best possible ways. And this is also recommended in the book on the open Spanish by Michalewski. c3, d6, bishop d5. And that's very interesting. A lot of new ideas is evolving around this bishop d5 in all sorts of settings, realizing that it isn't as great for black as we used to think to play h6 and g5. There used to be an old rule that said bishop g5 with both sides have a not castle. Have not castle is unclear. Bishop d5 with black having castle short side and white have not castle is very good for white, because black will have to weaken his king side a lot to get rid of the pin, and castling short for white, and black have not castle, and playing bishop d5 is very bad, because you will be run over by the pawns. I think nowadays the verdict is not as clear cut as this, and it seems that white is playing bishop d5 in more and more settings. That's also, I think, why in this position you could make an argument for playing h6 here, actually. That's not impossible, because d4, bishop b6, it's not certain. Maybe the knight takes does look dangerous. So it's probably not good. Well, maybe you can take, I don't know. d6, bishop d5, h6, bishop h4, all very natural moves. White has put his bishop out. Black has his bishop on the other side, bishop a7, and that's maybe a little bit strange, because often you would like to have this bishop on b6 instead of a7, and this is due to some potential pressure here. One of white's plan is always to play a4, and here white castles. having said that, okay, after this, we are no longer afraid of an attack here. And here I think black should probably play g5 here. That would be my suggestion. That looks logical. He does play knight a5, and that does not look logical to me. It is the computer's first choice, but I'm not sure I like it, and it could be the source of black's upcoming problems. This bishop on this diagonal and bishop a5 is somehow just not a good mix. Anyway, how bad can it be? Black has not played any bad moves, and of course white will have to put his bishop here, and at the moment this bishop is not doing anything. But there is also another rule in the Ruy Lopez or Spanish, that is, if white is able to get this bishop into a good position, he will usually be better. This bishop is the kind of piece that can decide the game. And here black goes on with g5, and all very aggressive, and knight h5. And we know that knight on the rim is dim, but of course here it will be able to exchange that bishop like this, or even sometimes go to f4, and this could also be quite good. Still, it seems a little bit like overstretching, and even though the computer is not very worried, it starts to be worried after this move. And this is a strong move, and it's very typical Caruana. He's not going to panic just because you start pushing pawns in front of his king. He's going to calculate all through the mess and see, okay, it's nothing, I'm not afraid. And then he will play a4. And we start to see that there's certainly some problems here. Got rid of the bishop, and black is getting the bishop pair. And to be honest, if he had time to play something like this, he might be able to start a strong attack. But first of all, he has to deal with this problem here, and the knight is hanging. So black goes back, and that's already a sign that something's wrong, because you don't really want to play knight a5 without playing c5. That's not the point of knight a5. Usually the point of knight a5 is to solve the problem with this pawn. And this is basically the universal problem black has in the Ruy Lopez, is that his knight is blocking this pawn, so this pawn is not able to participate in the fight for the center, giving white a superiority there that often will spread either to the queen side or to the king side, which make this opening very interesting. Black has a lot of ideas to solve this problem with the knight, but this was not a successful attempt, since he didn't solve it, and it's back where it started. And there's a weak pawn here, and you can say that, okay, I can play b4, but still this is not great. There are problems. This bishop is now extremely strong. It can be here or here. This knight might go here, and there are some problems here on the white squares. The knight is not solved, and even something like d4 is a problem. So you don't really want to play b4, but you don't want to play this move either, because this is just a very, very clear example that something has gone horribly wrong for black. Not a little wrong, just horribly wrong. Since, first of all, you're putting the bishop in the line of fire here. Second of all, this bishop does not belong on a6 in the Ruy Lopez in general. That's not a good square. When you're calculating in the Ruy Lopez and you say, I have to put my bishop on a6, you say, that's not right. It has to go somewhere else. I will not like to put it there. And especially when you played d5, because this square is a big hole in the position. So here it's white to move, and well, we gave some clues earlier to what you really want to do, and you really want that bishop to become strong. So this move is very strong. This also creates a very, very nasty threat of bishop d5 and here. Sometimes this is a problem, sometimes it's nothing at all. The thing here is you don't really want to allow it, because the combined pressure of the rook, oops, I'm moving the rook, here, the knight, here, and the bishop here is really, really uncomfortable for black. This was a very long error, or an error. Anyway, so you don't want that bishop here. The problem is after this move, which is the natural problem, you can't hold the center. White comes with d4, breaking open the center, and this is really, really not fun when you have a structure like like this one here. You really want to keep that pawn on e5, holding your position together, but you can't, because if you go knight d6 here, which was the obvious way, then just bishop d5 and it's a total mess. Knight c2 is coming, and everything is gonna drop. It's a disaster. So you can't really play. So you have to take, and that's a clear sign that something gone really bad for black. Because whenever, and this is another rule that you can guide yourself with in the Ralobas, whenever you take on d4, you usually want to be able to create immediate pressure somewhere. And here there's no immediate pressure. Knight comes in. This is a nasty knight. There's here, there's here, there's here, and it does open the queen for a rapid attack on f7. And of course the idea was to do something with the exchange, but it's not helping. Just getting the knight into the game, and at the same time actually threatening the bishop. So you feel like you have to take, and this position, yes, it's opposite colored bishops, but it's with an eternal attack for white. These pawns here are just, it's just a disaster, and this one is also weak, and I don't know. I think you can almost resign. Even with the pawns back, it would be better for white, but now with the pawns sort of gone recklessly into the world, it's just a disaster. And of course, a guy like Caruana, he will not mess this up. He wins these kind of positions. It's hopeless. Castle, at least got the king out a little bit, and white wins a pawn. d5, and it looks natural to try and see if you can get some counterplay. The problem is, of course, you don't want to take on d5 with the knight, because knight f5 is going to sit really, really, really uncomfortable there. So after here and here, well, there's probably a million ways to win. Caruana sees that the easiest thing is to exploit. Oops, I keep doing that. Oops, that was a mistake. Is to exploit this pin here. So he goes there, take b3, covering this guy, and white is threatening here. He's threatening here, and yeah, after queen f3 and d6, well, it's all gonna fall apart. So he decided to cover, and he was also threatening this one. Queen f3, probably maybe threatening queen f6. He's also covering this, so freeing the rook. Make that red. Rook a6. That's a nice little move. Just seeing that the rook can also go on the other way, so it's threatening this move. f6. Yeah, and I know that that is not very beautiful to have a pawn structure like that, and the bishop on a7. And you wonder, how could it go so horribly wrong for black? Rook a1, very, very nasty. Oops, very, very nasty. This one is a goner, more or less. Knight c8. And here's the final little thing. Okay, so you say, can I play rook c6? And then you realize, okay, there is a trap. Rook c6, queen takes f2 is actually working because a1 is hanging. It's probably okay for white still, but there's no reason to allow this. So Caruana just say, okay, king h2. Next move is rook c6 or d6 or whatever, and therefore black resigned. There's nothing to do here. And what a great example of the power of Caruana. It's just Burke, what did he do wrong? He played knight a5, maybe bishop a7, knight a5. Nothing like serious, nothing that the computer even noticed. And suddenly he's just like and totally crushed. And this happens to a lot of Caruana's opponent. I played Caruana, and he does this to people. It's just, and he keeps grinding. It's just like it doesn't stop. It's like a Terminator. It will just keep going and going and going until you're dead. And this is the power of Caruana. Anyway, this was GM Talks. I hope you enjoyed this video with this recent game from the American Championship. And if you do like the channel, remember to subscribe and like, and you can also share on all your socials, would be very nice. Thank you.